Hi guys, my name is Joseph Malone and back here with another video. Today I want to talk about grad school, and I want to talk about a couple of things that I think that should be on your mind if you're thinking about grad school, whether that is you are in college still and you're considering transitioning just straight into it, or if you've been working for a little bit and you're like, I want to go back to school. So the first thing I want to do is clear up misconceptions. I think that a lot of people kind of fancy the idea of an advanced degree. However, they don't really understand, like from a theoretical perspective, what a master's degree is and what a PhD is. And so beginning this video, I want to spend some time explaining what it is and like what it means, like if you to go after that kind of degree, like what does that actually mean? So to break down, so an undergraduate degree, what we have to understand is that you are a consumer of knowledge. You are being taught knowledge. Okay, so whatever it is that you're studying, history, biology, philosophy, whatever, you are being taught the knowledge, that the best known knowledge about that particular discipline that, is most discussed, widely available. You're a consumer of knowledge. What you have to understand is when you start talking about the master's level and the PhD level, you are going away from being just a consumer of knowledge to a producer of knowledge. And those two things are entirely different, because one just entails reading, and demonstrating an understanding of what you've read. The other requires that, and for you to understand research methods and understand how to craft a particular argument depending on your discipline and advance an argument within a thesis, or obviously if you do a PhD, a dissertation. So the big difference is when you are undergrad, you are a consumer. Master's, PhD, you are producer of knowledge. Now, to break down master's and PhD, master is a degree that is introducing you to doing research in your field. That's all it is. It's basically a big 2-year introduction to doing research in your field. If you go and get a PhD, you are an expert at doing research in your field. So you're among one of the experts in your field, but you also have been trained on how to be an expert at research in your field. So if, like for example, my field, I got a master's in history. If I got a PhD in history, I would be an expert at doing research in history, whatever, historical topic that might be. Right now, I have been at a level where I've been introduced to doing research methods in history, but I am by no far, at any stretch of the imagination, have the level of expertise that somebody with a PhD would have in doing research in historical research. It's just two totally different levels of teaching that's taking place. And that's part of the reason why the PhD takes 5 to 7 years, is because after you've done your coursework and you're working on your dissertation, you have your professors, they're literally training you on how to do research. You're traveling, you're going places. Like for me, and the topic that I study, Nazi Germany and Holocaust, I would be somebody that would be traveling to Germany, to Berlin. I would have to speak the language because the Nazis only wrote in German. So like, they're teaching you all these things, what archives to look in. They're teaching you all of these different things on how to be a researcher in your field. So that's the main thing. Masters, I would say you are introduced to doing research in your field. PhD, you're an expert at research in your field. If you're an undergrad, you are a consumer of knowledge. So if you are considering doing master's or PhD, what you have to understand is that it's a research-based degree. If you do not like research, then you should not pursue a master's or PhD in the general sense. And what I mean by that is this. There are different kinds of master's degrees that don't require research, but when you're talking about getting a master's in a particular discipline like biology, physics, philosophy, religious studies, history, a typical master's of arts or science in any capacity is going to be research. Now, there's different kinds of masters that may not have as much research or any research component. Like you take a MBA, a Master's of Business Administration. That may be a master's that may not have research entailed in it as much. It may be more knowledge-based, where you're learning more about, applying, business information and stuff like that. I've never done an MBA, so I don't know. But, or you would take like, say, a more terminal degree, like an MD or a JD. If you're in law school, you're not producing knowledge on law. You're learning the law and how to apply it in a judicial setting. Same thing with medicine. You're learning medicine and how to apply it in a clinical setting. So these are some things to think about. And I would encourage somebody, if you are still in school, maybe you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and you're thinking about doing a master's. Let's say you study history, English, religious studies, or something like that, and you're thinking about it already. That's good. I would say take a class that gives you an introduction to research. They have plenty of classes that allow you to do like a research seminar, where you can get that opportunity to see if research is something that you like to do. Now me, I love research, but that may not be everybody's cup of tea. And so you gotta understand that if you're doing a master's, it's about research. If you're doing a PhD, it's about research. That's what it is. It's not about anything other than that. That's what it is. Okay. Second thing I want to talk about is understanding what it is that you are signing yourself up for. I think that there's a lot of people that, again, they fancy the idea of a master's or a PhD. Ooh, they'll call me doctor. Or, ooh, if I get a master's, I can put MA behind my name. I'll have all these alphabets behind my name. And yeah, that's fine. However, what you got to understand, what you're doing is a very difficult thing to do. And I think that you cannot, anybody that's watching this that has a master's, they understand what I'm about to say, but you really cannot understand until you have gone through it yourself. But I'm gonna try to help you understand the best I can with my words right now. Master's is hard. PhD is hard, very hard. And it's hard on purpose. It's hard on purpose. And I'm gonna tell you why it's hard on purpose. It goes back to what I just talked about. Once you go from consumer, like when I was in my bachelor's, and once I got like the hang of it, like honestly, my bachelor was super easy. Like, I don't know if y'all feel that way, like my juniors and seniors, but like, honestly, like a bachelor's degree is easy. Now, like, once I got the hang of it, like I realized like, man, like, bro, this is easy. Like my degree, like this is super easy. Like you read, you write a paper, That's it. Like it was simple, and the readings weren't even like super crazy. So I got the hang of the bachelor's like pretty easily. Now, the masters, the reason why they make it difficult is because they're starting to look at you differently. And like I said, it goes back to what I was saying in regards to being a producer of knowledge. So they don't want anybody in the field who doesn't really want to be in the field. So they intentionally make it difficult so that if you're not really built for this life, you go ahead and get out. But if you really built for this life and you really want it like that, you're gonna stay in. And so that's why they make it difficult. They're literally, they're trying to break you. Grad school is intentionally going to try to break you. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna be sitting over here, like I said, man, you're gonna be reading books this big a week. If you're doing history, I don't know if you're doing if you're doing any of the arts disciplines, religious studies, stuff like that, you're gonna be reading a lot. I was reading books this big a week. And you had to understand the book because you was graded when you had to come to class and you had discussion. And you was graded on your discussion. And if you sat up in there and you ain't talked the whole time because you ain't understand nothing about the book, you're gonna get a 0 on your discussion grade. Point blank, period. So, and then not only that, you had your book that you had to read. You also had to write a paper about it. You know, and it was whatever, you know, the prompt was, but you had to write a paper too. So, you know, I'm sitting over here, you know, I'm like, whew, you know, I like reading, but man, like, bro, this is a lot of reading, bro. Like, I mean, I would get up, be at the coffee shop 5-6 hours, man, like reading. You know, I would literally, how I had my day set up, I'd spend an entire day. We not even writing the paper. We're not doing none of that. All I'm doing today is reading. like that's how much reading there was to do. Like, you can't, like, you know, when you an underclassman, like, you can sit over here, you know, you can read a little bit, you know, write the paper. Man, you could be done in a day. Nah, bro, you can't do that with grad school, bro. You know, all that last minute stuff, you know, some of y'all be doing, can't do that. That ain't gonna work. you gonna have to learn how to manage your time. like some of y'all for real, like y'all sitting over here like barely making it, you know, like something due on Sunday night. Hey, y'all just start working out on Saturday night, and then, you know, you get it graded a couple days on Tuesday. You got an A on the paper. I'm telling you, you cannot do that in grad school. It's not gonna work out in your favor. It's not gonna work out. You're gonna have to become disciplined. You're gonna have to manage your time. So, and that's hard. Those kind of things, those are hard. If you've never been disciplined and you never had to manage your time, really, learning to do that is hard. Sitting in a coffee shop for 5 to 6 hours, not moving, not doing nothing, but just sitting there reading a book for 6 hours, that's hard. Now, it helps if you like what you're reading about, but don't get it twisted. It's still hard. So I'm just letting y'all know, like, you know, understand what you're getting yourself into. You know, this is not no play stuff. This is, you are moving from consumer to you are now producer of knowledge, and they're starting to look at you. Your professors, they looking at you like y'all are kind of on the same level. They're not looking at you like, when you're undergrad, they it's like teacher student. When you become a grad student, they starting to look at you like, okay, you're a baby researcher. Like, I'm teaching this researcher who is like another researcher in the field. I'm teaching this researcher like all the best methods and everything to do. I'm mentoring him. I'm not teaching. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm here, you there. Like they kind of see you like you here. That was kind of weird for me because I'd have my professors. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, just call me by my first name." One of my professors, her name was Anna. She's like, "Yeah, just call me Anna." Bro, that's weird to me because I'm like, I come from the South. It's yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. I don't come from, you speaking to an adult, somebody older than you, like we on the same level. So, but that's how they see you once you go to grad school. That's how they see you. They looking at you. You are a baby researcher. So understand it's gonna be hard. But if you really want it, you will get through it. You will succeed, and you can do it. But it's gonna be hard, and it's to weed out the people that I put like this, y'all. People that I started my cohort with, I didn't finish with all of them, and that's real. I didn't finish with all of them, So it is real. It's gonna be tough. Some days you're gonna be sitting over here like, oh my goodness, like I just want to go home. I don't want to do this. But I'm telling y'all, like being on the other side of it, it's worth it. I'm a published author because of my education. I'm forever grateful for Arizona State for taking a chance on me and giving me the opportunity, not only to get my education, but just to live out in a whole different city, somewhere that I had never been before. Forever grateful, forever indebted to them for that. So, there's more to it than just your education that you're gonna get, especially if you leave home, and you go somewhere else. It's y'all see behind me, like I'm back in Texas and I still got cactuses and I'm representing the Phoenix Suns. Like that's my team. Like, so I'm forever grateful for my education, and it's because of my education that I've done the things that I've done, and I am the person that I am today. So it is worth it. I would tell you this my last thing, because it took me 5 years to get my bachelor's degree, and when I got to the end of it, I was tired, y'all. I was tired. I worked in my undergrad full time, and I was taking classes full time. And when I got to the end, I'd already been accepted and everything. And when I got to the end, I had just graduated. I got my piece of paper with my Bachelor's of Arts, History, Joseph Malone. I'm so proud of myself. I said, man, I'm tired. I said, yeah, I've been accepted into grad school, but I don't even know if I want to go because I'm tired. I don't want to read another book. I don't want to write another paper. Let me tell you, if you thinking about doing it, do it. Don't, if you in school already and you'd already, trying to put your application together, do it. There's no better time to do it than right now. If you a student, continue to be a student, because when you get out like me now, I've been out of school for 2-3 years now, like I done got bills and stuff like that. I done bought a house. Like, once you start doing other stuff, it makes it more difficult to be a student. I could still sit over here, yes, and go get a PhD, but it's not going to be as easy as if I didn't have the responsibilities that I have now. When I was in school, I ain't had no responsibility. The only thing I had was my car note. That's the only thing I had to pay for. And then, I had rent I was paying at a apartment complex out there in Phoenix, but that's it. I didn't have no responsibilities like what I have now. So, and you're probably in a similar situation if you're a student right now. You don't have no responsibility like that. So if you're thinking about doing it, just do it. Do it, and your future self, I'm telling you, you will thank yourself. Push through. I know it's hard. But let your unc from YouTube encourage you, push through and just go ahead and do it, and you will thank yourself later that you did it. So with that being said, those were just, there's a lot of things about grad school that I could talk about, the application process, the day-to-day, more in depth. But I wanted to give people just kind of a general overview of my main thoughts about grad school. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. There's a difference in the undergrad and when you go to graduate school. There's a difference in the way that they're approaching, the way they're teaching you. And so, if research is really not something that's interesting to you, then, you really should reconsider if that's something that you really want to do in the first place. But I just wanted to kind of, give that general overview of my main thoughts. If there's something in Pacific that, a person wanted me to talk about more, like, the applications, how do I go about getting letters of recommendation, anything of that nature, what's the best study habits, how do you study, stuff like that. Like, there's a lot that I can talk about. I've been there and done it. Let me know down in the comments, and I'll make a follow-up video or something, responding to it. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me talk today, and I hope that something that I talked about today you found interesting and insightful, that helps you in this process, whether you are in grad school, whether you are considering grad school. I hope that there was something of value in this video. So with that being said, my name is Joseph Malone, and until the next time, I'm out. Peace.